Hi, this is Dario. Just want to show you the new updates to the space kPACK. It's got a couple of these very cool deep space objects. Um, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to use them, create scenes, and some of the key settings that you need to implement. So there's quite a few nebulas, suns, coronas, there's even a black hole. So I'm going to start with a new project for you over here. All right. So once you got a new project, just start off by just deleting everything. Then you go KitOps, kPACK, go into space one. Let's start with the nebula. So you'll see it's called Nebula Eevee. That means it needs to be used with the Eevee system. So say insert, and when you start off, it gets a cube. And inside here is this is a volume. Um, and if you make sure that you're on the Eevee system, and then just hit render, and right off the bat, you've got a very nice um, nebula system for you inside Blender. And it gets driven by the shader. So if you go into the shading tab, you'll see there's a node network over here. You can adjust the colors by going to the color ramp and changing these colors over here. Um, and if you want to change how it actually looks, you would go into these textures. So it gets driven from the noise. And you've got scale. So if you modify the scale, it actually impacts the cloud structures. Let's make this a little bigger for you so you can see better. So let's go here. Let's get a nice little view. There we go. So if you hold shift, it can scrub very slowly, which is a nice little trick. And you can modify it. And this one over here, lucenarity also impacts the shape of the nebula. So you could design what you want to make it look like. In terms of look and feel, if you go to the volumetrics, this tab over here, you'll see right now it's quite granular. It's basically two things, tile size and samples. If you increase the tile size to say 2, it becomes very, very kind of fine grained detail. And if you amp up the sample to like something like 256 when you render, it'll look really nice. Downside is though, if you can see, the performance isn't very great. So when you're working with it, I suggest put it on to something like 8 or 4 if your computer can handle it. And if it can't, then just keep it on something like 16 or like in my case 8. Just plugged in the PC to get more power. So let's make the scene in black so you can see it better. Um, there you go. A few other things just to be aware of. So you'll see inside here there's some kind of a haze. This is a like an internal kind of gas texture, and you can increase and decrease it. It's pretty hard to see. There you go. So if you wanted that kind of atmospheric, you can implement it. And also at the bottom here is stars. So if you don't like the star system, you can just remove it by plugging this one directly into the emission, and it removes all the stars. When it goes black, you just got to rotate the view. That's just a little thing to note. So go back here. There you go. Let's see. And stars are back. Yeah, and it looks very nice with the renders. All right, that's the first one. So if you look over here, there's a kind of a gap to open space. What I want to do is I want to fill that. So if I go over here, I've got my spacescape. So with nothing selected, just say add insert. And what this has done is it adds a sphere inside it, and you've got a spacescape right off the bat. There you go. And if you want to, you can just select it and you can rotate R, Z, and you can spin it around to see which angle you really want to include in your view. Um, this one's also driven a little bit by the shaders. So you got kind of two parameters that you can use. So there's the universe brightness. So if you scrub this, it becomes brighter and darker. And then you got the actual individuals that you can dim and brighten the stars and the basically the bright elements in the scene. Um, yeah, so it's quite handy to have. I'm just going to disable the nebula for a second to show you something. So if we go into wireframe, you'll see they've got 3 spheres. All right, the big one is for the background, and the small ones are for internals, which are this basically this like kind of noise nebula. And what's quite nice about it is if I just zoom in, if you make an animation, you can actually fly through these nebulas, and it gives a nice effect. You know, like you're going through like some clouds. So if you wanted to make like a short scene, you know, you can fly through, and these are give it a bit of depth. So if you don't like that and you want to use the actual nebula that has been created, just go on over here and just disable these. You can drag by clicking, and it actually selects multiple, which is a little handy tip. All right. So I'm just gonna delete this one, delete hierarchy. Okay. And I'm going to show you a few of the other ones. So I'll start with the suns. Say add insert here. Okay, let me just scroll this up. There we go. So this is a sun, and if I go into the texture, it's just it's a sun 8K resolution map. This is of the actual sun, and what you can do is you see there's a few little shaders over here. You can influence the color scheme if you want to of this by changing these values. And there's if you go on rendered view over here, and this one go into Eevee system. I'm just going to put this on GPU and denoising. These have like certain parameters that you can influence the border of these of the actual sun over here. Yeah, it's just a standard texture. Let me just move this one to the side. X, bring it over here. Okay. Let me just disable this. Okay. So that's the first sun. Now these two are procedurally generated, but again they are with textures. So you see a simple texture into the emission, and you can always pump up the emission strength if you want to get the look and feel that you really want. In fact, if you go to Eevee over here, what's quite nice is if you've got bloom and you crank up the emission strength, you can really get that heat that you want to see. You know, so if you compare the two, you know, you can really make it look like something. But a sun needs a corona, so sun corona, add insert, and it puts a disk. All right, and this disk needs to work with a camera. So I'm going to add a camera inside here. Push 0, shift tilde, go back. All right, now this is quite a nice little trick. So there's a constraint on this disk. You just have to select the camera, and now what happens here is I'm going to do shift tilde and zoom around. It always rotates according to the position of the camera, so you can always make sure that you have a nice, you know, corona effect. And again, with the corona, you can go to the material, crank up the emission strength, and get what you really want. You know, nice little handy thing. With the KitOps system, if you want to change the color of the suns, you don't have to always add a new insert. What you can do is select the sun material, or what you want to say, add material, and it changes it over there, if you can see, which is pretty cool. And then again, if you wanted to, this time what I'll do is I'll just move that and say add insert, and you got like a really hot white star, which is quite cool. And then the last one, which is this is a procedural sun. Let me just move this around here. I can delete that. Add insert. So this one is really interesting. So it's the base of the sun is driven by noise. So there's noise texture over here. What you can do is you can scrub the X with an animation cue to give it kind of like a flowing system on the sun itself. And then these basically the flares from the sun are done with geometry nodes. So I'm just going to zoom in so you can see better. There you go. So you can influence the actual quantity as well as you see rotation and scale. So you can, and also density. So if I amp up the density, you can see it starts to populate more and more, or less and less over here. You got a random seed also if you want it. And then what is pretty cool too is if you really want them to arc out, these parameters can influence the actual arc of the sun, so you can get a really nice flare going, however you want it. And one last trick over here is with the sun, you'll see that if you want to select the nodes and you want to animate them for a video, you can't really click it. So if you go into this little filter over here and enable that little tick, now what you can do is you can click on the go shading, let's go to the flares. So you'll see that's the sun node. Let's get the flares going. Okay, let me do a tick again. Tick, selectable. There you go. Sorry, yeah, so when you make that tick and you see these things become selectable, you have to deactivate these over here. So then now you can select the actual flare. And what you can do here, what you can do here is if you scrub this X, you can see it can make it move. So you can make it animate and give that cool effect, you know. In fact, I'll just do that. So you can see a bit better. There you go. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's going GX, oh no, G, select the actual, put these back on. Sun, G, move it this way. And the last one to show you is the black hole. So if I add this in, you'll see here I'm in Eevee and it's not working, it's black. I mean, what's going on? So you must go to cycles. So back in cycles, and you see now the black hole system is over here, busy working. It's got this reflection, and that's actually pretty fun. It's got this warping effect around the sun over here. So what I'll do is I'll just clear the scene out a little bit and take out the nebula. I'll add a space cape, for example. There we go. So now you can see it a lot better. You can see there's a warping of the environment around it. So if you really wanted to make a nice little animation, you know, around, it'll look pretty awesome. There you go. Yeah, quite a nice little tool. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of different ones, as well as the previous ones will work with it. Hope that helped a lot. And one last thing just to kind of show you is if you want to get your render looking quite nice quickly, go into color management, say use curves, and then over here just tweak these values a bit. It's a nice quick way to change the levels of your scene before you render. Always find it works well. Yeah, cool. Thanks a lot. Have a good one.